you're going to make time for the big stuff in your life, you need to have a game plan. Tell me if this has happened to you. You are living your life, doing your best to keep on top of your plans, friends, family, work obligations, and then an opportunity arises for you to do something so cool and so worth it that you add it to your calendar without even thinking about it. It's the perfect opportunity. It's the shot you have been waiting for and you have to take it. But you quickly find yourself being overwhelmed with your new tasks and obligations on top of everything else that you're doing, and you burn out completely before you even get to take advantage of the opportunity. This has definitely happened to me. Sometimes we see something that we really want to do and it fills us with so much energy that we forget that we're supposed to make it work within our lives and not let it take over our lives. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a few steps that will help you take action on these big opportunities, goals, and plans that come into your life for a short period of time without losing your mind or upending your life. Let's head to the flat lay. So the first step is to name your goals. You have to say what it is, you have to define it. We really need to know what we are working with here before we make time in our schedule or our calendar for it. And yes, this means we are going to do a SMART goal exercise, but don't worry, by the end of this, you're actually going to understand how to do SMART goals. Hey, Editing Rachel here. I just want to clarify, SMART goals is a goal setting framework that has been around for a while. I didn't invent it. It's where each letter in the word SMART stands for something specific that you want to do with a goal, but I'm going to show you my twist on it in just a second. So let's really figure out the full dimensions of this. I'm going to take a blank page in my notebook here. I have the Sterling Ink Common Planner here. It just has a blank notebook in the back, but you can use whatever piece of paper you want. And I am going to figure out the dimensions of my goal. So let's take an example goal. Let's say I have the opportunity to go for a month-long trip in Spain. Crazy, I know, it fell in my lap somehow, whatever. The example goal we will be using for this is that I want to learn Spanish before I go on my month-long trip. So in our SMART goal exercise, we need to make it S specific, M measurable, A achievable, R relevant, and T time bound. But we are going to switch things up and switch them around because I actually don't think that this acronym is even spelled right. You need to do it in a different order than SMART, and that is actually SRAMT. We want to flip the M and the R. Stay with me. So yeah, SRAMT. Let's start with specific. Basically, we're going to try to get as niched down as possible. So instead of just, I want to learn Spanish before going to Spain, let's try, I want to be fluent in casual Spanish so that I can navigate my month-long trip to Spain with minimal translation services. Next, we're doing R, which is relevant. So the reason relevant is coming before actionable, measurable, time-bound in my rewriting of the SMART goal is because this is where you can really narrow down your why. And I think your goal needs a why before you even enter the other stages of the SMART goal process, because otherwise you don't understand your actionable, your measurable, your time-bound. It's just, those are like nonsense things that you're putting together if you don't understand why you're doing it. If you understand why you're doing it, it's going to affect the other things on this list. So this is why I move relevant up. You need to make sure it is relevant to you somehow, which means it has a strong purpose. If I wasn't going to Spain, I wouldn't have a reason to learn Spanish. So I'm going to Spain is a good, relevant reason, but it could be stronger. Maybe I'm going to Spain alone and I didn't want to depend on anyone else. Maybe I'm going to Spain and I really want to engage authentically with the local culture. So to do that, I need to learn Spanish because otherwise I'll be spending my time on Google Translate and nobody wants that. So really lean into your feelings here. A strong purpose behind a goal that is associated with your feelings will help you in the long run, especially when it gets hard. I have written, learning Spanish is relevant to me because when I'm in Spain, I want to be able to fully immerse myself in the local culture and feel like I'm not missing out on anything. So not only am I saying it's relevant because I'm going to be in Spain, but also because I have this feeling that if I go without learning Spanish, I'm not going to be engaging the way I want to be engaging in this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I'm accessing that feeling of like, I really want to feel immersed. I really want to not have like the FOMO of not understanding what's going on. Next is actionable, and this is where you are actually going to do it. I recommend finding the easiest and most straightforward path to figuring this out, especially if you're working with a short period of time. Lots of opportunities for us will come up and we'll only have a month to seize them or a season to accomplish them or do them. So when you're working with a short period of time, you want to have the most straightforward path. So to learn Spanish in a short period of time, there is no way I'm just going to do it by myself within me and a Spanish to English translation dictionary. There's no way. I need accountability in my goals. goals. So I will actually be using a language service called Lingoda. Lingoda is also kindly sponsoring this video. They're an online language school for everyone from beginners to experts who want to level up their language learning abilities in a live classroom environment. That's right, this isn't some little app on your phone. It is a real class with a live instructor. Learning a language is such a commitment. People spend months or years trying to learn a new language, only to find that a few minutes here and there isn't actually enough to make it stick. That is where Lingoda's language sprints come in. The Language Sprint Challenge is designed to get you up to speed on your language of choice in just 1 month. You'll choose between taking 15 or 30 classes in a 1-month span. All you have to do is attend all of the classes in the challenge, and you will get 50% cash back upon completion. You can receive credits at the end of the Sprint Challenge as well if you want to keep taking classes with Lingoda totally free. Whether you are a beginner trying to learn the basics before traveling, or an advanced speaker who's maybe let their skills diminish a little bit, Lingoda is the fastest way to level up your language skills. Classes are taught by native level speakers, and you get lots of direct attention. You will never be in a class with more than 4 other participants. You don't have to sign up for one particular time slot either. Classes are available throughout the day, so you can pick and choose when you take them to fit them into your schedule. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So if this sounds up your alley, head to my link in the description box below and use the code Rachelle20 to get a sweet discount on your first language sprint. Okay, now back to setting up your goals. Now, the reason a service like this is great for my specific goal is because they handle it for you. This is especially handy if you have trouble self-starting but still want to make your dreams a reality. Another example is if your goal is like getting in shape. This may mean finding a trainer who can set workout routines for you, or if your goal is to eat healthier, maybe finding a nutritionist. Basically, finding someone who has the expertise to help you along your goal is going to make this actionable part go so much faster because it will cut out the amount of research that you need to do for yourself. Now, of course, not everyone has access to things like a fancy trainer or language learning services, although you can get a cool discount code on Lingoda if you head to my description, but I still recognize that not everyone has access to those kinds of things. So figure out the best way or fastest way you need to do it by doing your own research. And this might take a little bit of time. You're going to need to build that into your schedule. But if you can access either a professional or maybe you have a friend who's like an amateur expert in a subject and can help you get started, I really recommend doing that because it's going to kickstart something and it's going to help you take action on whatever you're trying to take action on much faster. So with my example with Lingoda, I'm going to choose the 30 classes in 30-day sprint. For the sake of argument, let's say I'm going to Spain in December and I've got November to work it out. So I'm going to write here 1 Lingoda language class per day, every day of November. Perfect. That's amazing. And taking it one step further from here, I can head over to my monthly pages and I can write in November, take a language class, take a language class, take a language class, take a language class. Or I can, of course, schedule my language classes and write them in like my weekly sections if you are using a weekly planner like I do. I'm not going to write these down here because this is just a sample problem that I am coming up with. But I encourage you during the actionable step to write down exactly what you are going to do, maybe how much time it will take. So like each 1 hour. That's about how long the classes are. And then you want to make sure you're referencing your schedule to make sure you have time for that and see what you need to move it around. Because if you don't have time for it and you can't move anything around, it's not actually actionable. Okay, let's move on to M, measurable. So we're doing this towards the end because I think really S, R, and A are the 3 most important pieces of a SMART goal. If you only have energy for 3 things, you just want to do these 3 things. Measurable and time-bound are really, really, really helpful, and your goals will be stronger if you do them, but they're not as important as making sure you can take action on something today, making sure you have a strong why power, and making sure it is very specific to you and what you want to do. But with measurable, we want to basically figure out how we want to test out and measure our goals. So in business sense, this would be things like KPIs. Like if I was running email campaigns, I might look at email open rates, for example. That's a measurable attribute to goals that I have at my day job. But for personal goals, I think you can just stick with measuring your inputs and your outputs. And you only want to really judge yourself by your inputs. So in this example, with our language learning sprints, measuring an input to see if I'm on track means making sure that I am attending the Lingoda lessons. I have 30 days for 30 lessons, right? Or 15 lessons in 30 days, depending on what sprint you do. But for me, I'm doing the 30 lessons in 30 days, which means at the end of a given week, I can measure my growth by tracking how many lessons I attended. This will be 7 ideally per week. And this is the measurable figure that represents how much work you're putting in. So I'm going to say track each class on habit tracker. And I can create a habit tracker either on my phone or in my notebook. I know a lot of us like to put them in the sidebars of our weekly layouts or our monthly layouts. So if you have space in your ordinary planning routine for a habit tracker, stick it in there. But that is an input that I'm tracking because it's what I'm inputting into the goal, is my habits. Now, input is what you can control. Output, meanwhile, is what you cannot control, and it might look like feedback in the way you want to measure it. So, for example, Lingoda instructors give you personalized feedback after each class, so you can reference that to see your progress. And if I'm working super hard at Spanish, my inputs might be rock solid. I might be taking a class a day, I might be practicing on my own, but I can't always control the feedback that I'm going to get, which is why it's not always a 100% best method or your only method for measuring your goals should be output. But it is super helpful if you are working with a professional to get that feedback from them. So output, feedback. Now, if you are not taking a professional class, you might build in little tests or ways to give yourself feedback by yourself. So you could have a feedback from your professional, or you could, in this Spanish example, maybe I have a do-it-myself measurement by giving myself a little test and going to a Hispanic grocery store in my neighborhood by myself. Can I talk with the cashier? Can I read product information? Once you test yourself there, then you'll have a good idea of how much progress has been made. And I can choose when I'm going to do these little tests and plan them out. So I might, in my output, measure, say, grocery store test once a week. And that's just going to evaluate every single week how much better I am getting at Spanish by taking my classes. And lastly, T, time bound. This is by far the easiest one. It's just about the deadline. In my fictional example, I already have my Spain trip booked for December, and I already have a month's worth of language classes to get through. So this is going to take me exactly 1 month. And by the time I'm in Spain, I'll be semi-fluent. Easy. Usually, big plans or opportunities come into our lives with built-in deadlines of some sort. For example, if you start a new job, your big goal might be to absolutely nail the 90-day trial period at the beginning of your new gig. You know, you have 90 days that you will need to be on top of your performance game. Or maybe the marathon you're training for is in 2 months. Okay, so you have a 2-month deadline. It's all taken care of. Generally, the reason time-bound is here is because you don't want to say something like, oh, I want to generally eat healthier. That may be relevant, actionable, and measurable, but if you don't have something time-bound, if you're not saying I'm going to eat healthier for 3 months, for example, that is doing yourself a disservice, basically, because then you have this goal that's really a habit goal that you're setting up for like the rest of your life, and you don't have an evaluation period or a period where you can step back and say, hey, is this really working? Is this the right goal for me? But if you say I want to eat healthier for 3 more months, then you have sort of a time-bound element to it that makes it feel not like an endless desert of new goal, if that makes sense. Now that you have your goal firmly fleshed out, it's in your mind, it's in your heart, it's smart, it's SRAMT, it's everything you need it to be, we need to do just a couple more things to ensure your success. Namely, you need to prioritize to deprioritize. I want you to take a look here at your current obligations and pick out which are actually a priority and which can be put on hold so you can pursue your plan. We're going to do that with a sticky note here in just a second. Magical sticky note. I want you to make a list of everything that you do regularly and then cross out the ones you're deprioritizing. So here's a sample list of the things in my life, and some of these I'm going to be deprioritizing for my fictional goal of learning Spanish. Namely, I can pretty much cut out video games and I can pretty much cut out movie nights. You have to remember you're not deprioritizing these things forever. You're just putting things on a brief hold for now. But you cannot reasonably learn a new language at double speed over the course of a month, taking classes every single day, and also focus on writing your novel or whatever. I mean, maybe you can if you have a ton of time or if novel writing is your full-time job. But for the common man like me, who works a full-time job, has relationship obligations, a side hustle, etc., some of the non-essential stuff has to drop at least for a few weeks. These are 2 things, video games and movies are 2 things that make me so happy, and I love doing them to relax. So it's important for me to remember that this is not forever. This is just for the time period of your goal, which is 1 month. And after I'm done with the 1 month, I can go on a bender of as many movies and video games as I want. I just have to deprioritize it temporarily. For example, if I'm doing a language class every single day, I am not going to have a lot of time to hang out with my partner, Tim.
However, I can't cut out Tim from my life the way I can just stop playing video games, right? And I wouldn't want to do that because my relationship is really important to me. It is a priority in my life. However, with this other priority, I do want to work with Tim to make space in our calendar for this. So instead of just pulling back and cutting him out completely, like a psycho, I need to make sure that I have a conversation with Tim and let him know, hey, I'm going to be kind of unavailable for the next month. I really want to nail this project. Maybe that convo also comes with a thank you so much for your support. What can we do over the course of this month or after this month that still makes you feel seen? Something like that. So work with Tim for, let's say, modified date schedule. Of course, you can also modify your video game and movie night habits. For me, I would sooner just cut that out, but if it's really important to you, maybe you watch 50% less movies or something, for example. This all brings me to my last point in the goal setting process here, which is basically to work with your community. And I think this is super important because when you have a big project, your community wants you to succeed, right? Tim wants me to succeed at learning Spanish so that I can have my dream vacation in Spain. He loves me. Of course, he wants that for me. And if you're working on a big project at work that you're trying to make space for, see if you can ask your boss or another colleague for help on other projects or extensions on deadlines. Nobody is an island, and the people in your life really want you to succeed at your goals and do cool things, but you have to be upfront about how your change in plans will affect them and ask them for help if you need it. Because if you're trying to fit all of this in your schedule and you don't deprioritize and you don't communicate to the people in your life that you are deprioritizing certain things or ask them for help when you need to deprioritize, you're going to be in a bit of trouble with them. They're not going to understand what's going on, and it's going to seem like you're just disappearing out of nowhere. But you actually have really cool stuff going on, and you want to make time for it, and your friends, family, coworkers, they all also want you to make time for it. So be kind, offer help in return when they need it too, because they also have cool stuff going on that we want to support, but work with your community to see what can be done to support your goals when you are moving into a new phase of life that's very exciting that you need to sort of put everything on hold for, or whether you're going to Spain and learning Spanish. Give that a shot. It'll really, really, really make a difference.
And the final step is to execute the plan. Take a look at your daily schedule, your next actions, and get busy accomplishing your goals. A great resource to help you do this is my video on tracking your energy levels throughout the day. It is right here on the screen, so go ahead and give that a look. And remember, above all, you got this. Thank you guys for watching. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.